Hey, what's up, guys? This is Ronnie Armstrong, filmmaker extraordinaire, here with another video for you. In this video, I want to talk about Will Smith's latest film that's out for streaming right now, Gemini Man. Before I do that, I want you to hit the like button on this video. If it's your first time to my channel, welcome. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications when I go live and when I upload recorded videos. So during this whole COVID-19 thing, we're all kind of like stuck in our homes, and I got an opportunity to catch up on a lot of movies. So I decided to check out Gemini Man with Will Smith, and I did watch a lot of the reviews, and they were mostly negative. So I said, well, you know what, let me just see and check this out. It wasn't that expensive, actually, too. I was surprised that they were offering it at a fairly inexpensive rate to stream. So anyway, long story short, I watched the film and I actually did enjoy it. And maybe because I didn't go outside to a theater to pay 15, 20 bucks, whatever, to see it, but I did enjoy it. But I'm going to be honest with you. It was an eye-opening event to me because there was something about the film that really greatly disturbs me. And I'm going to go into this, right? And it's because it's like you hold someone up in a very high level, and you admire them, you think the world of them, and they kind of fall short of that. They disappoint you. And I really felt that Will Smith disappointed me with this film in many ways. Anyway, let me just give you a quick synopsis. He plays a government agent for hire. So he goes out and I guess he's a marksman, a sniper, shooter, and these things catch up with him. He has nightmares about these things. He has a conscience. So this is going to be spoilers. The government agency that he works for decides to clone him, and the idea is with each clone, they are genetically engineering him to remove the guilt, remove the emotions, remove the pain. So consequently, Will decides to retire, and what they do is and he comes across some information that's kind of damaging to the agency. So they send his clone after him, his younger self, and the two get into it. There's some really cool fight scenes, especially a scene where Will's clone is on a motorcycle, and really interesting stuff, some really good stuff. Reminded me, a lot of The Bourne Identity, things like that. And toward the end of the film, we find out, as I just already revealed, that there's more than one clone. And the idea is which makes sense in a way, they're going to create these clones of Will, so soldiers don't have to risk their lives. They have families, and if we can create these clones, we can send them to war or send them on these missions. But the idea is, when Will points out in the film, his character points out in the film, is that they're human. They do have feelings, and you can't just use them as tools and things of that nature. All right, and which is a really, really good point. And I think that's something that's a moral issue that you come against. It's like, well, you're creating these clones and you're using them as tools, never realizing or even thinking about the fact that, hey, you know what, maybe they have feelings and maybe they have emotions. And although those were supposed to be genetically removed, we do see that Will's clones do have emotions and to a degree do feel, you know what I mean? Let me use his real name in the film too. His name is Henry. Anyway, so that's really the plot of the film, And the whole thing that made this big deal about the film was that this new technology, which de-ages him and also can create his ultimate version, his alter ego, his clone. And unfortunately, there are some scenes that they pull off that looks really good, and other scenes really, really bad. So, in some scenes, it definitely doesn't work. You can tell it's CGI. Other scenes, it kind of comes across okay. But for the most part, I would say that the technology is not there yet. If you got a chance to see the latest Terminator movie with Sarah Connor and John Connor as a little kid when he gets shot, the CGI at the very beginning of that film looks awesome, looks fantastic. And I wish that they had used that technology in Gemini Man. But anyway, I digress. So this is the catalyst of the film. Now, many people who reviewed the film had problems with the story, especially the CGI. Some of the story or the narrative flow didn't make sense, which is true. But I overlooked that because I'm really into the whole, the Bourne Identity thing and the, Mission Impossible thing. So I kind of really got wrapped up in that. And I like those types of films. So I kind of overlooked the film's flaws. But there were some flaws in this film that was so glaring and disappointing that I just couldn't overlook them. And it really made me think about what's going on with A-list actors like Will, and especially with his wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, who made a statement recently when I think Will was snubbed from the Oscars about how we needed to create our own movie studios, she had a good point there. But now I look back on that and I'm thinking, was she full of shit or what was going on? All right. So let me get to what I want to say about this. Will Smith's story is really inspirational, coming from Philadelphia, coming from nothing to be one of the world's top actors, being multi-talented rapper, actor, and just all around great guy from what I understand. But when you look at this film, there's just some things where you got to go, what's going on? And makes you pause. And I'm sure many people missed it, but I caught it. And let me just tell you what I'm saying. When I look at this film, I look at the power that Will Smith has as an actor in Hollywood. Can command his own salary, can pick and choose what project he wants to be in, what director. And I said to myself, well, when you look at this film and you look at the cast, it is predominantly white. There are no black actors other than Will Smith. There's no black director. And I'm asking myself this question, how did he not notice this? And there was, and Hollywood is famous for this, to where, you look at even minor roles that could be played by African-American actors that they cast for white people. Why would you do that? So I'm looking at this film and there's so many bit players, extra roles that could have been played by actors, but it's all white actors. And maybe, one of his best friends in the film is an Asian. He's an Asian guy. I think his name is Benedict Wong, who plays Baron. And I'm like, okay, that's maybe a step in the right direction, but everyone else is just white. Now, here's where it gets really bad. And I don't know if you ever heard this term. They make fun of. They use this as a kind of this weird colloquial saying, "white daddy," And I kept thinking about that when I saw this movie, where it's revealed that Will Smith was raised by Clive Owen, who's a sensational actor, awesome, and he plays Clay, the head of the government agency, who picked Will out of obscurity from a military program and trained him to be a special agent. And Will goes throughout the film calling him dad, because this guy raised him. And I said, well, why do they pick Clive Owen for this role? Because it's just inappropriate for him to call this white guy dad. Now, look at it this way. If they had cast someone like Lawrence Fishburne, who was an excellent actor for The Matrix and other films, then calling him dad would have made so much sense. But to put Clive Owen there, a white actor, and Will to call him dad, and then given the fact that all the other roles in the film are with white actors, it just is so obviously racist in what they're doing. And there's he has, like, I guess, a sidekick, this woman who's also in the government program, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who I like as an actress. She plays Danny. And Well, her role, I mean, she did step up to the plate because I was wondering, like, is she just a sidekick or can she really do something? And she learns pretty quickly and she starts doing some really cool stuff. But you can see how they were afraid to go there with a relationship. Of course, there'd be an interracial relationship, and they didn't want to go there, which naturally in every other film you've seen from like, you see films like The Bourne Identity, Mission Impossible, from the James Bond films, there's always some type of sexual chemistry, a relationship that develops, even if it's one night stand. And they didn't go there with Will. And I've seen this before in the film Hancock, where they didn't, Charlize Theron, they did not want to go there, going so far east to going so far as to say that Charlize Theron was kryptonite because it made him weak to be around her. And even though they were husband and wife, there was no affection whatsoever. And the same thing is with this film. So I asked myself, then why did you cast Mary Winstead? Why didn't you just cast a black actress and then have them have a relationship if you were so afraid of the interracial thing? And when I say that this film is lily white, I'm telling you that even bit roles where actors were killed off, why didn't they just cast black actors for those roles? Knowing that in Hollywood, that the majority of out of work actors, well, I can't say that because whites outnumber blacks, so therefore the majority of out of work actors would be whites. But we know how difficult it is for black actors to get roles in films. And someone like Will Smith, who has his clout and power, could have peppered the film with black actors. I want to give credit to the BBC because if you watch the BBC, especially like Doctor Who and things like that, you'll see where they're more liberal than Hollywood. They do cast a lot of black actors in principal and bit roles. But this film, shame on this film. Shame on this film for what it did. For number one, casting Clive Owen as the daddy father figure, and for not even casting a black actress, a woman in this film. There was one black actress I did see, and she was an extra, had no speaking lines, and was in the background. This is appalling that Hollywood is doing this. And it's even more appalling when you have someone like Will Smith, who I'm not really sure if he's doesn't have his pulse on what the audience wants or how America has come. Because when I'm watching this film, I do see a lot of things that are, to me, like outdated in a way. I'm like, oh, okay, well, yeah, we've seen this before. This is kind of cliche. This is old. So I'm thinking, who did he have write this film? Is this, I mean, and the film is just, it wraps things up so neatly and nicely. And even in the James Bond films, in The Bourne Identity, there are some ramifications that happen. Things happen. People die. People are traumatized, never go back to the way they were. And you see that, especially with Jason Bourne. This film, at the end, it's just like we all holding hands singing Kumbaya. I'm like, that's not reality. You know, does he have writers that really are in touch with what's going on in the real world? And I remember seeing one scene in particular. And as a writer myself, I had a problem with this scene where he's talking to a friend, another white guy, and he's telling about these, I guess, these night terrors he's having, how he every person he's assassinated, he can see him in his dreams. And I say, you know, one of the rules of screenwriting is you show, don't tell. Why is he telling us this? We should see him waking up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat. We need to see the effect of all those killings upon his psyche. But we don't get that. He's just telling you, yeah, I got nightmares, and you know, every night I see my victims, and I'm going to retire. I'm tired of all this. And what that does is it's not emotional. You don't really feel for the character in that way. But anyway, let me get back to the real problem here. And it seems like Will is doing film after film where this is becoming a problem. If you remember, the film just came out, it's called Spies in Disguise, and this film falls in line with a series of animation films that come out, and they pull the same crap. Go back to Princess and the Frog, where um, you have the characters, they're African American, and the princess and the princess, and they become animals for the majority of the film, a frog. And Will is doing this film where it's Spies in Disguise, where he plays a pigeon. And I'm thinking, you're an A-list actor. And instead of showing your face in this film, this animation, so kids can see you as an inspiration, you're going to spend the entire film as a pigeon? That's disrespectful. And when I remember seeing The Princess and the Frog, or whatever it is, I didn't even go see that film because I thought it was so appalling and uncalled for what they did. And they did it on purpose because they don't believe that the American audience will go see a film where African-American character and animation, that they'll identify with that African-American character. So they have to create a cute little animal. No, we want to see their faces. I don't want to see Will Smith as a pigeon throughout the entire film. I want to see him. So what I'm saying is Will is doing a succession of films that are just basically out of touch with the American audience, out of touch with what's going on. And this film is just blatantly racist. To go through a film and call Clive Owens daddy, there's a disconnect there. I mean, do you not see this? And when you have the power, okay, so he got Ang Lee. I respect Ang Lee as a director. So if you're not going to have a black director, why then aren't you going to give the bit roles in the film to black actors? What is the damn problem? You know it's very difficult for actors in Hollywood, and especially difficult for African-American actors because they're discriminated against. This is why you have people like Tyler Perry who are held in such high esteem because 99.9% of his films are African American. Give him credit for that. But Will Smith, who can command his own salary, who when he says jump, people in Hollywood say how high, does this. Now, I made some notes about some other problems in the film, but I'm not going to go too deep into that because those two things, I think, right there in and of itself are a big problem. I mean, why have this white female co-starring you if there's going to be no relationship? Okay, if you want it strictly platonic, fine. But in the film, they actually hint at some type of attraction. Then don't go there at all then. Or say she has a husband, right then she has a husband, or something to where we know that, okay, this is the reason why they can't get together. Will Smith just blatantly says, I'm not attracted to you, as if he's a male, he can turn that shit off. And then when it comes to his clone, he was saying, well, maybe my clones are attracted to you. The clone looks at her and says, oh, you're an old lady, so I'm going to call you ma'am. And I'm just like, they're just doing everything to avoid a relationship. And I'm thinking, if you just had an African-American female there, they could have had a relationship, you could have given work to a great African-American female, and you would have solved this problem of this film being so blatantly racist and lily white. And I think it failed at the box office, not because of that, because I think the story itself, the writing is just out of touch with the American audience. People want to see more. People want good writing. And I think this film is stuck somewhere in the 80s where it's not taking any risks. It's not really getting deep down and dirty. If they had that relationship, that love going on between Will Smith and Elizabeth, I think that it would have really taken the film in a different direction, and it would have made it a little bit more interesting, and it would have raised the stakes. Because if they did have a relationship, then when she was in peril or when she was in danger, he could have then, it could have presented an emotional issue for him. Because now he has to protect her and then complete his mission. And you know, when you mix emotions into a situation like that, it compromises your decision-making process. And I think that would have been the perfect that would have been perfect device to put into the script. So why do I think Will Smith did not demand a black female? Part of the reason is what they do is they try to sell these pictures to the studio, and they attach various names to it. So when they get Will Smith attached to it, then they try to attach other well-known actors like Clive Owens and Mary Winstead, and it makes it more marketable, right? And I think that there are very few black actresses on the level to where it would entice you to come see the film. I don't think that's true, but I think that's probably from their perspective. They're thinking, oh well, there's no really good black actress that would draw the crowd. I think that's their excuse. I don't think it's true. And I also think too, what they're afraid of is they're afraid of too many black actors making a black film. And in their mind, too many black actors is one more actor besides Will Smith. You understand what I'm saying? Because you couldn't have too many black actors in this film because there's too many white roles. There's just too many white roles. And one more black actor wouldn't have made it a black film. But you have to understand that. Even models have even talked about this, how when you have these ensemble photo shoots, they have to be careful to have only one black woman or one black male there. Because if you have another black male, you tip the scale and you make it a black photo shoot. You know what I mean? And I think they're oversensitive about that. And it's racist. It is. So I remember when I was, and I think this was a good point, when I was writing for television in Hollywood, they specifically told me, they asked me what shows I wanted to write for, and I named a couple of shows. One or two were black, and they were like, "Well, you don't want to do that." And I was like, "Why?" They said, "Well, you don't want to start your career out being known as a black writer. You want to be just a writer." And I think my agent was absolutely correct, because they're so racist and stereotyping you in Hollywood that if they do see you write for one sitcom, you're going to stay writing for black sitcoms. You're not going to venture out of that. So it's a very tricky thing, but it's still, to me, no excuse. You could have had, even if, like, let's be honest, right? Even though I've seen her films, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, she's not a crowd drawer. In fact, when I saw her in this film, I didn't even recognize her. She had like this very, I don't know, like short haircut. Reminded me of a feminist. I was like, who's this character? Who is this woman? And I remember, oh, I know her. And if I'm wrong, I think she played, I think she was in Die Hard too, as Bruce Willis's daughter, so she's a good actress. But there's so many they could have gone with, and I don't know why they didn't. I just don't. And Will is, it's not like he's blind. He can see, he's sitting on the set. He's seeing the cast. He does have some say. I don't know why he didn't like stand up and say, hey, you know what? Why don't we just give a bit role here and there to these black actors, And the reason why I was talking about Jada Pinkett Smith, because she was actually calling Hollywood out for being racist at the Academy Awards for not nominating more African Americans for the Academy Award, when in fact her husband is in a film that's lily white. So what's going on? We got to call you to task here. And I think her as a black actress, as a quote strong black woman, how is she not whispering in her husband's ear, Will's ear, and say, hey, baby, this film you in called Gemini Man, why is there no black woman in this film? You know what I mean? I mean, really, why is there no black woman in this film? That's a problem, So if this is just one incident, one film, I wouldn't bother with bringing this up. But as I said before, I'm kind of seeing this pattern where you have Will now doing Spies in Disguise as this pigeon, And I'm getting unnerved because I'm saying, is he okay with this? Because I'm going to be honest with you. I think it's disrespectful to him what they're doing. And if I could have a conversation with him, I would say, listen, Will, look, they're disrespecting you. They're portraying you as a pigeon. You need to tell them you want to see your face. You want to be in there. Look, Will, they're disrespecting you. They have no other black actress who's alongside. You know what a kick-ass film that would have been? Because Mary Winstead was really doing some cool stuff with the guns and the martial arts. To see a black couple kicking ass. And now that I'm thinking about it, I think that's probably what the problem would have been. They don't like that. Hollywood has they have an aversion to strong black couples for some strange reason. When it comes to strong black couples, love, on-screen love, and kicking ass. And I don't think that's probably why they didn't do that, because they don't want the American population to see a loving and strong black couple kicking white people's ass. But I mean, the thing is, if you really look at that from a marketing perspective, you would say, man, that's a kick-ass concept. That would really sell. That would really draw the crowd. Why wouldn't they do that? That would just make so much sense, you know? I mean, if you guys recall, I don't know if you guys ever saw the film The Spook Who Sat by the Door, which is a very brilliant film. It's an old film back in the 70s, which actually detailed how they were training African Americans to start a revolution in this country. And it was really exciting to see the gunfire and how the training was and how they started this revolution. It was based on a novel. So I think it is, Hollywood was probably knew the message that would send out to show Will and a black actress kicking ass, kicking the government's ass. And I think they were like, no, we can't have that. Let's stick him with this lily white woman. And I mean, she was, the way she, look, I've seen films that she was in. This film, they made her lily white. And I was like, Jesus Christ, man, what did she do? I mean, I seen her in films where she was hip. She played a young girl who was you know, she knew what time it was. But this film, it was just like, what did they do? What were they? I thought they were going for this whole feminist thing, the way her hair was cut short and the way she was acting, but it didn't go in that direction, which I'm glad they didn't. But still, but anyway, I did enjoy the action of the film. I thought the action was cool. Again, the CGI kind of was distracting because you did notice it didn't look that good, and you didn't buy it that it was Will's younger self, or you just didn't buy it. But the concept was there, and apparently this script has been floating around in Hollywood for 10 years. And I think finally Will made it come to the screen. Unfortunately, I think it needed to go through a number of rewrites, and I think they need to cast it better. And I think that the story could have used some more plot twists, which, I mean, they were afraid to take a risk. I mean, I saw certain things they could have done that would have been like, wow, that would have been great if they did that, but they didn't. And but the point I was bringing when I first started off this video and what I was saying was that I remember, this was a while ago, when a lot of people were talking about how racist corporate America is and stuff like that. And I had a firsthand experience where I saw that happen, where during COVID-19, I saw a company blatantly lay off a majority of its African-American workers and kept the white workers. And when I saw that, it was a reality wake-up call for me, because I was like, wow. And it wasn't like, wow, that I didn't believe that corporate America was so racist. It was like, wow, I can't believe they didn't realize the optics of what they were doing, that they just did it anyway, didn't care how it looked. Because I mean, it was blatant. It was like, it's not like they laid off a group of black workers and peppered in one or two white workers. They laid off 100% African Americans and kept all the white people. And I was like, wow, this is like in your face obvious, and it shows they don't care. And then the other point that I want to make with that is that the people who worked in HR were all African American women. And I'm like, and they didn't say anything because they want to enjoy their little positions of power. They're not going to rock the boat. You know what I'm saying? But this has to change. And with COVID-19, there has to be a better understanding in this country about how things affect African American people. When you're talking about a president who's giving away, what is it, $1,200 to the American people because of this COVID-19, you have to understand that that money is not going to go a long way with blacks in this country, because the majority of blacks in this country are due reparations, and they're also living in such a state of just poverty. And then you have to couple with that, and I always bring this point up, they don't have human resources. In other words, most often in white families, if you have a white friend, they have a doctor in their family, a lawyer, or a biologist and stuff like that. And with black people, you don't have those type of resources to tap into. You don't have, most likely, a black doctor, a black attorney. You know, you don't have those people in your immediate family. So where there's a wealth deficiency, there's also a human resource deficiency. You understand? And I think that when the government thinks about programs and things of that nature, they don't think how disproportionate these things affect African Americans. Hollywood doesn't think how disproportionate their actions affect black people. They're not thinking that. Well, maybe they are. Well, yeah, they are. They actually are. And they don't give a damn. And unless you hold them accountable for it, and unless you expose them. You see, Hollywood is engaged right now in its biggest propaganda lie, which is that they're for diversity. They're lying to you. They're not for diversity at all. They're using diversity, the nomenclature, as a smokescreen to push the LGBTQ or the alphabet agenda. Inherently, is anything wrong with that special interest group? That's a special interest group. No, but when you're looking at the fact that they represent how many percent of the population was it? I don't know what, 2% of the population, when African Americans represent a larger share of the population. Why are they fighting to have more LGBTQ representation than they are fighting to correct the wrong of years and years of racism in Hollywood done to African Americans with films like Birth of a Nation? You understand what I mean? So stop lying and saying you're for diversity when you're really not. You have an agenda. You know what you're doing. The problem is that we don't have special interest group fighting for our rights or fighting for our behalf. The ones that we did have, like the NAACP and all those other ones, have sold out. So there's no one in Hollywood calling them out when a film like Spies in Disguise or Gemini Man comes out, or a film about white Egyptians. No one's calling Hollywood out and saying, listen, you know, can't do this. But the minute you cast any aspersions or say anything negative about the LGBT community, there's going to be a big uproar. And we need to be that way too. We need to have a big uproar amongst us and say, listen, this is not right what you guys are doing. And you guys have been doing it for years, for literally years, since the inception of Hollywood back in the 1920s. The damage that that film, D.W. Griffith's Birth of a Nation, did is irreversible. You know, King Kong, irreversible, the damage that film did. So I think what I was saying was that I really looked at Will Smith and I was like, had such high esteem for this guy. And I admired him. And I actually did an interview with it was me and the mother, the woman who played the mother, I forgot her name now. And we were talking about what it was like to work, what it's like to work with Will and things of that nature. And it was a program that was on the BBC. she's an awesome woman and actress. And her and I got to talk after the interview. And what was my point I was trying to make there? And she and her husband, they have a production company. They're trying to make films. It's very difficult for them, you know. So anyway, I forgot my point I was trying to make with that. But the issue is we've got to call Hollywood to task, and films like this should not be made at this juncture. You know, I mean, this is just bad on Hollywood's part, and I feel bad because I love Clive Owen. He's the man, but I'm not going to call you daddy. I'm sorry. I'm not going through a film where I'm calling you daddy. It's not going to happen, Clive. It's not going to work. Now, you could put Lawrence Fishburne there, and that could work. I'll call him daddy. Or Morpheus, either one. But I just see that, I don't know what's going on in Will's mind, because I just see them disrespecting Will. You know what I mean? That's really what I see a lot. And I see that he just goes along with this. I'm like, dude, man, for you to call Clive Owen's daddy, don't you feel like that's a disrespect in a way? It's like, what it reminded me of this very old film with Richard Pryor called Brewster's Millions, right? And in the film, Richard Pryor's character inherits, I forgot it was, like $50 million, and he has to spend it within like 24 hours. And if he spends the 50 million in 24 hours, he'll get something like 200 million. I think that's what it was. I forgot the exact number. But it turns out that he finds out that it was his uncle that left him the money, and his uncle was white. And I'm like, so you couldn't have a black uncle that left you $50 million. You had to have a white uncle that left you $50 million. As if there are no black men who are millionaires. We know black men, they're millionaires and they're billionaires. Kanye West is crying about how he's a billionaire, you know? And I'm not talking about just the people who are in the entertainment industry. I'm saying we have billionaires, we have oil billionaires, we have tech billionaires. So it reminded me of that film, Brewster's Million, because I thought that film was racist as well. I thought, well, Richard Pryor, and that's when he had a name for himself. Why are you allowing him to cast your uncle as white? And they even called it out in the film. The uncle goes, I bet you didn't know you had a white uncle. And I'm like, wow, that even makes it worse that he says that like that, you know, very disrespectful. So I don't know if these actors care. They just do the film, take the check, and move on. I don't know, and I know that you cannot. One thing that's important: you cannot rely on your inner circle to bring these issues up, because your inner circle is white. Hollywood is a white town, so your inner circle is not going to necessarily be in your best interest. They're just going to mirror what you say or parrot what you say and just agree with you. They don't want to rock the boat because you're going to stop signing the checks for them, you know? I remember there's a famous line, this is Howard Hughes, I study him a lot, Howard Hughes, where he was in aviation and he was flying his plane and his plane crashed and he was able to walk away from it. And one of his employees says, well, is he all right? Is his right arm okay? Can it still sign checks? And that just shows you you're in a circle. The people that you think care about you, they don't. Especially in Hollywood, those people. Ask MC Hammer. He had a big entourage with broken. Now he can't find those people when he needs them. But I think it's going to be where online critics and commentators and the movie-going audience, we're the ones that are going to have to bring this issue up, because obviously Hollywood's not going to address it, and the A-list actors aren't addressing it. So we're going to have to address it. And I think that we're going to have to speak in accordance with our dollars and not see these movies. So, Brandy, what another movie is the one Whoopi Goldberg? Oh, I didn't see that. What You said where her daughter's sperm donor was a white man, but at the end of the film, it turned out he wasn't the actual sperm donor. Okay, I didn't see that film. I'm not really sure. Um, and for a time, yeah, Whoopi Goldberg's films were like that, where she was the only black actress in the movie, you know. And but I can give that a pass because you know what, that was back in, what was that, like the late '90s or early '90s, and Hollywood was trying to play catch up as far as the racial disparity. But I think now we're in 2020. There's no excuse for this now. This is no excuse. So, you know, again, I just let me put it to you this way. This, maybe I'll end saying this. Snoop Dogg was called out by Jada Pinkett Smith for the things he said against what's her name, the interviewer who, this interviewer, and I forgot her name, but she was, you know, doing an interview and asked about the basketball player who recently died, and it was very insensitive. She brought up rape allegations after he died, so Snoop called this woman out. If you guys remember the interviewer, please put her name. Gail, yeah, was it Gail King? Yeah, Gail, and Snoop was really angry at Gail and called her all kinds of names and stuff. So Snoop went on Jada Pinkett's show, and Jada Pinkett was like upset with Snoop, calling him like, I feel like you were attacking me when you attacked Gail, because I'm a black woman, and blah, 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 blah. Well, I'm like, well, if you're a black woman, why ain't you told Will to put black woman in this film Gemini Man? You see? But see, it's politically correct for a black woman in the public eye to attack black men. But it's not politically correct for black women in the public eye to attack the system and white men. Have you noticed that? They will hire black women to badmouth black men in the media, but never call to task the white infrastructure, which is the foundation of this white oppressive system. Do you understand? And we see this with Gayle King, Oprah Winfrey, and these documentaries or these mockumentaries or whatever you want to call these things about, you know, continually vilifying black men. But yet Harvey Weinstein gets convicted, and we have still not seen a documentary about him and about what he has done. So I say, black women, stop being used like that. See the game for what it is. Why are you letting them play you? They're playing you in the HR departments. They're playing you in front of the media. You know? And I'm not going to go too much into this, but Issa Rae is another one. She's not even African American, and they give her all this accolades and roles, and the first thing she does is she bashes black men. That's the first thing. When she got her show, the first thing in the show, she talked about how black women are tired of picking black men and settling for less. And I was like, what the hell is that supposed to mean? Why would you say that? And I'm just like, they'll just do anything for the deal, you know? So please stop that, you know? Please stop that. And I think that maybe one day we'll get a film like what I was just explaining, where there will be an African-American male and female kicking ass, taking names and kicking ass. And it's going to be an awesome film. And I think it would do phenomenal at the box office. Oh, so the film's called Made in America. Okay. But anyway, thank you guys for jumping in here to have this discussion, because really, man, I checked this film out and I was just like, you know, you watch a film and you think you're not going to be into it. And I was watching it and I said, oh, well, it's pretty interesting. It's cool action, stuff like that. But then as it progressed, I was like, well, wait, why is everybody white? And it was just so unnerving and it was bothering me. And then when it got to the white daddy part, and then it was like, whoa. And then they wouldn't let Will have the relationship with the woman, even though they were going through the ups and downs and they were inseparable throughout the film. And I mean, minor characters were dropping dead, getting assassinated. And I'm like, would it have killed you to hire a black actor to play that character that's going to die in the next scene anyway? Like, whoa. Like, why? Whoa, whoa. So I was talking about this with somebody else, and they were like, well, good thing it failed at the box office. Good, I'm glad. But it has to fail the box office because we stand up and we speak out. It can't just fail because Hollywood needs to understand what they did wrong. And if it fails just because no one sees it, then Hollywood will attribute it to, oh, maybe Ang Lee wasn't the right director, maybe the screenwriter wasn't the right writer, or just maybe it wasn't the right time. No, they have to hear our voices. They have to know that, look, it failed because you were racist as hell, and the things you did in this film were inexcusable. Just like Spies in Disguise, we should not be seeing that film. And we should make it known that we're tired of Disney and all these other companies portraying us as animals and not letting us be princes and prince and princesses in the film. I don't want to be a toad. I don't want to be a pigeon. You know? And Aladdin, which was a genuine hit. Of course, Will was blue in that film. What was he, blue or something? He looked really weird, but he did a good job. Look, when Will is in the film, he does a good job. I liked him in Hancock. I thought that was awesome what he did in Hancock. But I didn't like the fact that he didn't have a relationship with Charlize Theron. If you're going to introduce them as husband and wife, then you need to see them get down. They need to have sex. They need to at least kiss, make out, do something. They did absolutely nothing in the film. It's because Hollywood is racist. Because the first thing Hollywood would do is what? When they have the next James Bond film, when they have the next whatever, James Bond is going to screw a black woman. He is going to sleep with a black woman. He is going to sleep with a Latina woman. He's going to sleep with an Italian woman. He's going to sleep with a German woman. That's it. Captain Kirk, kissed Uhura. Captain Kirk is a Mac Daddy. He is going to sleep with green, pink, orange women. But when it's okay for the white man in these films to sleep with all kinds of racial diversity women, even alien women, but when it comes to a black man, there can be no contact, no sexual chemistry, nothing. It's strictly platonic. Just like when you see these anchors, you'll see, Tom Johnson, he's black, and his white co-star, never any innuendo of interest or sexual tension. He's always very sterile, very straight, and there's no banter. You'll notice that because it bothers white America to see a black man having banter, sexual banter, with a white woman on screen. And let me correct that. I don't think it bothers white America as much. Now, I think it bothers Hollywood. I think black power couples bother Hollywood. And I think Hollywood does everything it can to keep the two divided. That's the program. It's like, let's keep black women bashing black males in the limelight, the foreground, and let's keep black men away from white women. So you then you notice how these commercials are coming out now, where you see black women and have that white husband in the commercial. Oh, they're throwing it all at you now. It's like all these multiracial commercials with black women. I mean, it's crazy how many commercials they got. Black women with a black husband or a black boyfriend. I mean, black woman with a white husband or a white boyfriend. Very few with a black man with a white woman. Very few. But they saturate the airwaves with the black woman with the white man. And they do that for a reason. So anyway, thanks guys for taking the opportunity to talk about this film. This is something I had to get off my chest. And you want to see a really good Will Smith film, see The Pursuit of Happiness. I love that film. I think that was an awesome film. It starred him and his son. And I hope that Will do some more good films with a diverse cast. And I mean African-American cast, but we'll see. So this is Ron K. Armstrong, filmmaker extraordinaire, signing off. Until my next video, keep making films.